You hear about stuff all the time, and you never think it would happen to your family.
Have y'all seen her at all?
I've not seen her at all.
This is actually my first serious case.
I know my sister. She's not gonna leave her kids.
It was surreal, just the fact that I actually went to school with Danny.
The guy in the hoodie popped the trunk just because he seen all his blood here.
What?
This definitely raised flags for us.
It was the most violent body death that I've seen in my career.
I'm not interrogating you. I'm trying to find her.
From that street to here, like, what happened?
Do you know where Danielle is right now? When are you going to be honest and start giving me the truth about what's going on?
Police department.
Yes, ma'am. My daughter is missing, and I was maybe if she had a wreck or what was going on. We can't find her, and kids are having a fit.
Okay, honey.
I'm trying to find Danielle Pruitt.
Danielle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you know what she was wearing?
No, ma'am, I don't. I haven't seen her today.
Okay, and when was the last time you saw her?
I think she left the house somewhere around 3, maybe 3:30.
And you didn't actually see her?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but her children did?
Yes. I'm just a little bit nervous here. They couldn't fit at ball practice, and they can't find her mom.
The Tazewell County Sheriff's Office dispatched 2 officers to the Pruitt home to learn more about the missing woman, 29-year-old Danielle Pruitt.
On those types of cases, most of the time the person just, I hate to say it, if they're not missing, if they're just not answering their phone, or their phone's dead, or they just lost their phone. When I went to the house, we just wanted to get a baseline of who she actually spoke to throughout the day. Just trying to figure out what actually happened.
Officers arrive and are greeted by Danielle's mother and her twin sister, Nikki.
So, what's she been doing today? I mean, have y'all seen her at all?
I've not seen her at all. I had to work. I was supposed to be off. I was supposed to be off work today.
Okay.
My boss called me in and asked me could I work, and I needed the money. So I called my sister and I asked. Well, she wasn't answering her phone. So I kept calling, called Chris. Chris said she was asleep.
So, man.
So I told him that I needed him to get her up. It was almost 2 o'clock. I was mad that she was asleep. I said, asleep. So he went and woke her up, and I said, Danny, you know.
Nikki explains that Danielle's roommate, Chris, is also her ex-boyfriend.
I guess she got up then, and Savannah, a girl who lives with my sister, or who's staying with my sister, whatever, said she heard Danny on the phone, and Danny said, meet me on the next street over.
Come on, man.
Okay, well, I'm coming too. I am her mother.
Okay. Throw on some shoes, too. Y'all, too, okay?
Nikki stated that Danny had a phone call, and she told the person on the phone to meet her on the next street over. After that, she left, and then that was the last time that they ever heard from her.
I know my sister.
Identical twin.
I've been her sister for 29 years. I've never been closer to anybody but her. She's not gonna leave her kids. It's not adding up.
We'll go over here to the house and I'll talk to them.
Can you please? I'll probably be bugging y'all, and I don't mean to, but
Y'all can bug it.
this is my twin sister, man, my daughter.
I'll go over there and see if they know anything else. I'll give you a call back, all right?
All right, thanks.
We were very close. She was my best friend. We were always together. We basically lived at the skating rink or the bowling alley every weekend with our friends. You know, if you seen her, you seen me. We were together all the time. Danny was a single mom, so if she was going somewhere, she would definitely let me or my mother know where she was going, how long she was going to be, and have one of us watch the kids. She wouldn't just, she wouldn't leave them like that. So we knew something was wrong. I called the police right there, like, please do something to find her.
After leaving the Pruitt home, officers head to Danielle's house to speak with her roommates, Chris and Savannah.
Hey, man. Can we come in for a minute? I'll holler at you.
They arrive to find only Chris.
Where's the chick at? Savannah? Okay. We're trying to find Danny. Do you have any idea?
She left at 3 o'clock, and I ain't seen her since.
3 o'clock? Where'd she go to? You have any idea?
He was very irate. He wasn't happy I was there. He was short-tempered, like one-word answers. I asked him if I could step in the house to speak to him further. He said no, I couldn't come in the house.
Did you have an ID on you, man?
What do you need my ID for?
I'll run you to see if you got any warrants on you, man.
Don't come up here to ask questions, now you want to interrogate me.
I'm not interrogating you. Can you get it out for me?
Can you not just call that in?
Can you get it out for
I'm
me?
already aggravated enough because I've been trying to find her. I don't want to have no problems right now, so here, just take my number and stuff.
Why are you being an ass?
Because I'm pissed off with the situation.
Well, how you pissed off at me? I'm trying to find her. It's a very good idea to be right back, all right? What did he say?
He was very not forthcoming with the stuff I wanted, just to ask him. I wasn't trying to pin anything on him. I was trying to find her. I don't know if she could be in the house or, or he'd just be holding her there. At that point, I figured that we needed to go back at the house at some point to see what's going on, if there's any evidence, or if there was actually Miss Pruitt or Savannah or anybody else in the house.
The next day, there's still no sign of Danielle, so officers return to her home, this time with a search warrant.
Hold the stairs, Travis. Or no, hold the stairs. Jarvis, hold the stairs. Yeah, go ahead.
I got y'all. Go ahead.
Huh? Open door left. Clear. Upstairs.
When we got the warrant on the house and we responded, the SWAT team, which I was a part of at that point, went inside the house and cleared it, just hoping to find Danny or Savannah or any other evidence that might lead to finding Miss Pruitt at that time.
SWAT officers clear each room in the home, but find no one inside.
After completing the search, Savannah or Miss Pruitt, they were not inside the house.
Just as worrisome, however, is that Chris seems to have also disappeared.
We didn't actually know where to go to at that point. There was no leads. There was no evidence there that we seen right off at that time that could lead to her, and we just knew we had to find her for her family and for her kids at that point.
But as officers conclude their investigation of Danielle's house, they get word from her family that a man has found her phone.
We had no knowledge of who he was or what relationship he had to the family or anything.
As far as I know, not in trouble. We just need to talk to you about the phone.
We felt it was very important to go to his job facility and get the information that he could provide us to help any information that could lead us to Danielle.
Maybe a seat right there.
Back at the station, officers question the man about the phone.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. Tell us about that cell phone that you found.
I just got off work. I came down,
exit 5 right there at Tash Motel. And down, came across the phone, was on the
Where you
bridge,
come across the phone at?
right there at the storage buildings. It was right there on the little bridge right there. It was laying right there face down. And I stopped, told my old lady, there's a phone back there, so I went back there and picked it up. The phone still worked, so the screen wouldn't work because it was busted. So I took to the house, I had a pair of headphones that you can answer your phone calls with. I put those in, answered the phone calls, so I get the phone back to the people.
You answered the phone, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
It was,
And I got hold of her mom, her sister. They said, where's Danielle at? And I told them, I was like, I just found her phone. I'm trying to give it back to whoever belongs to it.
He said he had no relationship or any knowledge of who Danielle or any of the family were. He just happened to find the phone on the way home.
With no evidence directly connecting the man to the missing woman, investigators let him go.
We felt him to be very truthful in the matter and not misleading in any information that he provided us. Once we had the phone, we wanted to try to look at it, see who she may have had contact with, text messages, when was the last text message that she may have sent out or received. That type of information takes time to get. It's not something that you automatically get right off the bat.
Go ahead. Hey, I just talked to this, her sister. The blue car is at Graham Park. Can you head there? I'm heading there now.
Early morning of the 18th, I actually went back to her family's house. I was telling them everything was going on in the case, about we're still trying to find her, still trying to search for her. During that time, Chris called and said he found the vehicle.
Detectives are shocked to learn that this is the same Chris that had seemingly vanished earlier. They immediately dispatched to the scene, an auto body shop on the edge of town.
When I first arrived to her car, the family also arrived on scene as well, which made it chaos there, just trying to get everybody back from the car to see what was actually going on the scene at that point.
This is the missing person, which I told him not to touch it.
Y'all step back from the car, guys, please. Yeah, just step back.
The guy in the hoodie, he popped the trunk just because he seen all his blood here. Okay. All right.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of 29-year-old Danielle Pruitt have just located her car with evidence of blood on the outside trunk.
Just because he seen all his blood here. Okay. All right.
2513,
did you look in the trunk good?
What is it?
Get it. Back them up. Get in the car.
Get in your car, okay?
The family of Miss Pruitt showed up. It was chaos there during their screaming and hollering and crying.
Investigators search the vehicle, but they find no trace of Danielle or her missing roommate, Savannah.
Honestly, I was kind of hopeful that we would find her in there in time, but she wasn't. And her car had been wrecked, and there was blood on the back bumper. So that was even more clarification something was wrong. Even though we didn't find her yet, I felt like it was too late.
This was actually my first serious case, and it was different for me. It was surreal, just the fact that, I actually went to school with both of them, and as she could be gone at that point.
Officers continue to process Danielle's car for further evidence when Danielle's roommate, Savannah, suddenly arrives at the scene.
Come on over and talk to her, okay?
Savannah found out about the car discovery, and she came over directly because she was Danny's roommate. We also wanted to check with Savannah to establish what kind of information that she had in regards to where Danny might have gone to or who she was maybe going to meet.
Tell me what they said you overheard something last night.
When the police pulled me to the side to talk to me, I was very emotional. I really couldn't get the words out. I just constantly cried. We were best friends. They gave me time, and eventually they pulled me back to the side and was like, okay, we need to know what you know. And I told them, and it was just very hard.
Come on around over here.
I'm hearing her on the phone when she's walking around the house. I heard her say, meet me on the next street over. That's the last time I've heard her.
Let me ask you.
Savannah's account matches what Danielle's sister Nikki had told police. But then, Savannah reveals a startling new detail. Danielle sold drugs to make extra money.
The night before she came to me, she was like, Savannah, she was like, I only have $400 now, so she had to pay $600 for her kid's baseball. So I'm thinking that baseball, I guess cleats. She got 3 kids. Cleats, baseball, basketball. I don't know. She got expensive, and then she told me that she only had $400 in her pocket.
Savannah was able to relate to us that Danielle was selling drugs so that she could provide a better life for her kids. Danielle was a single mother. She was struggling and was really just trying to get by.
I could give 2 if she's sitting on 5 pounds of heroin right now. We need to make sure she's okay.
She's not a bad person. She don't go to no clubs. She don't argue with nobody.
All I'm interested in right now is finding her.
But it's so crazy because from that street to here, like, what happened? I heard about the back of the car.
Savannah also mentions that earlier that morning, she had been looking for Danielle.
Can I also add something? Even after, she came up missing, we rode this street, and I never seen her car right there.
It was actually Chris who found the car. It flew up a red flag to me because of the earlier dealings I had with him at her house. Then also, early in the night, I drove by that same place. I never did see the car. And it made me wonder, could he be involved in this case?
Detectives bring Chris, Danielle's ex-boyfriend, to the station for questioning.
All right, Chris, I know you know why we want to talk to you, right? You know why we're talking to you. Okay. Or can you tell me about Thursday, which is the day that she went missing?
Her sister called, so I woke her up and put her on speakerphone so they could talk.
What happened after that?
She finally woke up. She made a few phone calls. The last thing she said to me is, I gotta run out for a minute and I'll be back.
Now, did she leave and come back and then go?
She didn't come back to the house. Not one time.
Anybody go with her?
No, she's by herself.
Investigators then press Chris about discovering Danielle's car.
Next morning, I called Jess.
Who is she?
A girl that I've been messing with. She thought that she seen the car parked down there and she was driving it.
So she said she thought she seen Danielle's car on her way through to your house, right?
When she got there, at first I didn't believe her. I got my stuff on and got dressed, and I was like, well, let's go. So we took off walking over there.
Was the car there? Now, what'd you do then when you went over to the car?
Looked in the windows. I seen the trunk had a dent in it. I tried kicking the trunk open without touching it, because I wanted to make sure she wasn't in it.
In my mind, I'm not saying he's the one done it, but, I'm being very cautious that, there's a link here, and then the car automatically turns up not far away from home. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of unanswered questions that we're trying to figure out. I pressed some details that was inconsistency of the investigation. He started getting really agitated and started yelling back towards me. And I explained to him, we have to know of what happened because you may be the last point of contact of us finding her.
And now I'm feeling like this has turned from cooperation to interrogation. And I'm getting fairly aggravated.
Well, I hate it for you, my friend, because you got a lot of cloudy issues that I need to talk to you. You're not clearing anything
I
else.
found the car. I popped the trunk to make sure she wasn't in it. Seen blood on the back of it.
I'm not saying anything bad about that, but you come up with the attitude, don't come and give me attitude. I'm trying to get the answers here that we need to know.
This has been so trying on my mind. You don't understand. It's really broke my mind. I can barely function because all I think about is this.
I was skeptical about believing some of his story, but some parts of his story I knew was true because of other interviews that we had done. At the end of Chris's interview, we felt like we couldn't link him any further to Danielle's disappearance. He cooperated fully, so we decided to let him go. We would follow up what he provided us in the investigation.
Back at the scene, detectives canvassed the area where Danielle's car was found.
Everybody kind of watch where you're stepping.
As we turned the corner, we saw what appeared to be a brown blanket covering something.
There she is. Right here. Everybody stop.
Police in Tazewell, Virginia, believe they have just discovered the body of Danielle Pruitt.
I can see the head right there. Pick the shortest end up. There's the foot right there. All right, back out. Everybody back out. Yeah. That's her.
I was afraid of that, but I still had high hopes.
When I peeled back the blanket and saw that we had a human body here, we started seeing tattoos, and the one tattoo of the flower on her upper body, her family said that was the newest tattoo that she had, and once we saw that, we knew that the victim was Danielle.
Investigators examine the remains and identify injuries to her face and skull.
It was obvious that she had died in a violent way. Her hair was saturated with blood and leaves and sticks from where she was drugged to the scene. Her jaw was askew from being broken, and both of her eyes were blackened. There were numerous lacerations, cuts, scrapes, drag marks. We weren't able to recover any murder weapon, but I could tell that she died from some type of blunt force trauma by the damage to her head, and it was one of the most violent body deaths that I've seen in my career.
If we can use flags to mark evidence, that would be great.
I'm just making a suggestion of working here out to where we first saw that first spot, and just kind of look the blood, and that way we can mark and
I knew it was going to come to this, just didn't know where.
Several years ago in my career, I was the DARE officer, and I had Danielle and her twin sister in my DARE class, and I had known them since they were in 5th grade. And standing there looking at her face, I could see that 5th grader again, and that just really lit the fire under me to find out who did this.
When the officer came in there and said he found her, I was hopeful. But he said not long after that she didn't make it. And it really felt like He was wrong. It wasn't true. He made a mistake. I just didn't feel like that could really happen to my sister. You hear about stuff all the time, and you never think it would happen to your family. So I really felt like it was a nightmare, that I was gonna wake up and she was gonna be there. I felt like a part of me went with her.
As detectives search for a suspect, a woman arrives at the station who claims to have information about the investigation.
Hi there. Good news.
We had a female come into the office that felt like she had some information about a gentleman that had been at her apartment the night before. And he was just acting really hyper, suspicious acting.
And this is on Friday evening?
Yeah, Friday evening. So he was
Are you
there
sure it was on
about 7
Friday
o'clock.
evening?
No. Wait a second. Was it Thursday, the day the girl went missing? Then it was Thursday at 7. He was there about 7. He left about 9 o'clock.
Okay. Was he by himself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You remember what he was wearing?
Blue jeans and a white tank top. And then he came in the house and she had told me that he was asking her if she had like a big shirt in her car that he could put on.
Did she give him one?
No, she said that she didn't probably have one that would fit him, but she said even if it was dirty. So he said that it didn't matter. So she never gave him one.
The woman tells detectives the man's name is Sean Wakefield.
I don't really know him. I've met him like 4 different times.
Sean gets there to their apartment, he's asking for a shirt to put on. They felt that it was very odd, that something wasn't right.
She then states that Sean also made a second request that caused her even more alarm.
Well, that night when he was leaving, the last thing he said, if anybody asked, I would hear at your house at 2 o'clock, since 2 o'clock. When he left, and that's the last thing he said. He said, if anybody asked, he said, I've been here at your house since 2 o'clock.
While we're listening to the individual provide us this information about Sean, this definitely raised flags for us.
After her interview, detectives arranged to drive the woman home.
While taking her home, the female provided us additional information that she forgot to tell that she felt like it was important.
The woman states that the next morning, Sean actually picked her up and drove her to run an errand.
So, tell me about it.
Okay, so it was before that, we was coming down the highway. So he looks in his rear view and he sees the cop. And it's like, it's a way distance. It wasn't bothering us. It was way back there. So he starts tripping and he's like, I gotta get off the highway. And we had just turned in the middle of the curve. And he's like, throw these out. And I was like, what? And he just said, throw them out.
While traveling in the vehicle with Sean, he tries to get off the main highway, gives her some of his clothes. I need you to throw them out now.
Was they in a bag? Or?
No, they was just balled up. I was just looking straight and he was driving and just reached in between his seats. So I'm guessing I didn't see anything in the back seat. So I'm guessing they might have been under his seat, under the back seat. And I didn't even know this girl was dead, didn't know y'all hadn't even found her car yet. So I just thought, of course it was weird, but I just threw him out. I wasn't thinking, at this time I didn't know I still don't know if he did it. So I just threw him out.
She's telling us this, so we had to stop what we were doing and find the clothes. We needed to get there and get there quick. We get there and we find Sean's clothes of the exit that she states that she threw them out at. We were very lucky to be able to find these clothes and get them as quickly as we did once we learned of this information. We recovered Sean's jeans, his pullover shirt, and a sock. Once we discovered the clothes, we noticed some types of red stain that was on the clothes. It was a good indication that it was blood.
Detectives collect the clothing and then send it to the lab for forensic testing.
The discovery of these clothes to the investigation was a very key element, and we knew we had to talk to Sean.
At this point, we wanted to question Sean because we believe Sean was a possible suspect.
Detectives dig into Sean's background and are surprised to learn of his current location.
It was very easy to locate Sean. He'd actually been picked up the day prior on a probation violation, so he was easy to locate at the jail.
Detectives bring Sean and his lawyer into the station to question him on his whereabouts the day Danielle disappeared. Sean has been fitted with an ankle bracelet that tracks his whereabouts, so police know well what to ask about.
Sean, what I was going to do is I'm going to ask you to, if you would, just kind of tell me about your day yesterday and the time you woke up. About what time did you wake up yesterday morning? 10. What'd you do when you got up?
Went outside and started the car.
Went outside and started which car?
My truck.
Which truck is that?
2000 Yukon.
What color is that Yukon?
Tan.
You started it. Where did you end up going?
Went to Tim's Auto Repair right on 460. Taking a quote on some brakes.
About what time were you there?
I would say about 11.
Did you stop anywhere else in between your house and Tim's?
No, I did not.
When I questioned Sean regarding his activities the day of Danielle's disappearance, he was very specific initially, and then he had large gaps in his story around the time that we believe Danielle was murdered.
Then I went back to, I came back to Tazewell. That's when I came back to Tazewell.
Did you travel 460 all the way?
Yeah, I think 460.
Where'd you go from there?
Went to Tazewell Square.
Okay. Where'd you go up there?
She got there with a friend of ours. And her and I was kicking it on the parking lot. And then the girl that went...
A female friend?
Yeah, female.
You don't want to say her name? Okay. About what time would you say that was when you left out of there?
It was probably around close to 3.
While I'm questioning Sean, I'm analyzing his body movement, I'm looking at his eye movement, and I can tell immediately that he's not being truthful, that he's aloof.
So after you leave Tazewell Square, where do you go?
I go home.
You go straight home? Don't stop anywhere?
I felt that very little of his story was truthful. I felt that he was being very deceptive and very dishonest the entire time.
I'm sure you've heard that old adage, honesty is the best policy, right? So my question to you is, when are you going to be honest and start giving me the truth about what's going on? Because quite honestly, you're leaving stuff out. You're leaving big gaps here.
At this point, I'm just going to let you off.
Okay.
As soon as I started to question him very specifically on his inconsistencies, Sean's attorney immediately shut the interview down.
But checking Sean's account of his whereabouts is easy. Officers simply download a map of his GPS coordinates off his ankle bracelet.
Being able to establish that he still had his ankle bracelet on was very important to this case. And through the use of GPS monitoring, we were able to track Sean's movement everywhere he had gone.
With his ankle bracelet intact on the day of Danielle's murder, officers canvassed the route Sean's GPS confirmed he traveled.
We were able to identify businesses and residents and different locations that had cameras, and that was going to provide significant evidence should this case go to trial.
Detectives scour through hours of surveillance footage when they spot a vehicle that stops them dead in their tracks.
We were able to obtain traffic cam footage from a four-way intersection in one of our local towns. When we find this video footage, we are thinking this is it, this is the moment that we're looking at our suspect.
Detectives investigating Danielle Pruitt's murder have just found shocking surveillance footage.
During the course of our investigation, in utilizing this ankle bracelet GPS, we're able to identify Sean in what we believe is Danielle's vehicle. We're able to see Sean coming up to the traffic light and making a right-hand turn, and then he drives around for a short period of time and then leaves the vehicle at the location where we find the vehicle the next day. So now we were able to be 100% certain that this was Danielle's vehicle. And this is a major piece of the puzzle.
Copy 832.
Investigators then go to the construction site next to where Danielle's car was found.
What's that, man?
Morning, sir.
Pretty good. My hands are dirty.
Don't worry about it.
What happened, or can you say?
I can't really tell you much. I'm looking for a vehicle or anybody walking.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right quick.
Same old, same old.
3:17. 2 o'clock.
If y'all don't mind, I'll sit here and click it. I'll let y'all do. That way I don't take up y'all's time.
What you think, man? We'll help you.
Hey, we appreciate it greatly.
The detective downloads the footage to a thumb drive to review at the station.
Got her done, brother.
Oh, got it done?
Thank you very much, sir. Okay.
Upon reviewing the construction site footage, in that video, Danielle was going to meet Sean. We're able to see Danielle's vehicle pull in, and then we see Sean's vehicle pull in shortly thereafter. We see what we believe is Danielle come into view, and then there's a sudden movement away. It's a very quick jerking, and we believe it was at that point that Sean actually grabbed Danielle and began to murder her.
If police are right, they're looking at the start of Danielle's murder.
And then we see Sean's vehicle drive away. A couple of minutes later, we see Sean walking back over, and then we see Danielle's vehicle leave. We never see Danielle again from that point on. We believe that Sean was driving Danielle's vehicle with Danielle in the back and looking for a place to dump her body.
While detectives have their suspicions about Sean, the evidence they have against him is circumstantial. Until they receive the results of the forensic tests done on Sean's clothing he dumped on the side of the highway.
Once the lab had examined the clothes, it had Sean's DNA, Danielle's DNA. We felt we had a very solid case.
Armed with this new information, police bring Sean in for a second time and confront him about the inconsistencies in his story.
We wanted to question Sean again in hopes of getting him to confess to Danielle's murder.
Confronted by the new evidence, Sean admits that he contacted Danielle to buy drugs the day she disappeared.
Had you bought drugs from Danielle before?
Yeah, previous occasions, yeah.
You know what time you called Danielle?
I called her at 3:15 and told her, buddy of mine's trying to get some. When we got up there to the area, I called her, I said, look, do you want me to come to your house? And she said, no, meet me on the next street over by the graveyard.
Now, did you actually meet her?
No, I never seen her.
Based on all the evidence, it's my opinion that everything coming out of his mouth is an outright lie.
Do you know where Danielle is right now?
No, I do not.
Did you have anything to do with her disappearance?
No, I did not.
Have you put your hands on Danielle with the intent to cause bodily harm?
No.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay.
At this point, even without Sean's confession, we were very certain that Sean is our person.
All right, you come with me.
So I believe that Sean acted by himself, and Danielle did meet Sean in order to sell him an 8-ball of cocaine. I believe Sean is there to rob her. He has no intentions of giving her any money. I believe Danielle is a fighter, and I believe it got to the point where the only way that Sean was going to walk away from this was that he had to kill her. Once he killed her, he realized what he's done, and he had to get rid of the body. And at some point, he found a place where he felt safe enough to dump her body. But he forgot that all-important piece of evidence that he had around his ankle, and that was that GPS monitoring. And with that, we were able to nail him.
Although he never confesses to investigators, after being confronted with the evidence, Sean Wakefield pleads guilty to first-degree murder, grand larceny, and concealment of a dead body. He is sentenced to 57 years in prison for murdering Danielle Pruitt.
This was not my first homicide, but I got to interview my first murder suspect. Being able to sit across from somebody and look into their soul and know that the person that's sitting across from you committed murder is very exhilarating for me. And I always want to win. And that was my entire goal with this, is we wanted to win, and I think we did.
I have a lot of hatred in my heart for him. And I hate that because that's not the type of person I am. And I hope one day I can forgive him, but I can't right now.
For us to get him to plead guilty to first-degree murder was an absolute relief, and it was very important for us to provide that closure to that entire family.
I always knew Danielle as a best friend, as a sister, honestly. She was my back and I was her front. Like, that's how close we were. And the saying is true, like, you never know what you got till it's gone, and I definitely know what I lost. Life's a lot different now.
I just want everyone to remember how great of a mother she was, how great of a friend. Just remember how caring and how giving and how loving she was. I'm sorry I took her for granted. I'm sorry about all the silly fights. I didn't realize how much I need her. That she's my best friend. It physically hurts when I think about her. Like, it really hurts. I'd give anything to have her back.